One of the most fundamental underlying questions in our 4 days of debating is, why should I adapt to others and not others to me? How human is that? How do I benefit from diversity? Here to talk about it, please welcome the guests of our first and only debate of day 4 of D&I Changemakers 2020, Małgorzata Romaniuk, Vice President of Management Board at Bank BPH, Jessica Rodriguez, Director Client Experience Lead at Accenture Poland, and we also have Anna Dorogostayskaya, HR Business Partner, European Papers and International Paper, Russia, and a very good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Good morning. It sounds like we have a little bit of delay, but that will be helpful in some situations. So let's see how it goes. Let's start with the fundamental question to the question posed in the title of the debate. Are we really much different? I mean, we're really all human after all. Who'd like to start?
I think I will start, if that's okay with you. So, I mean, Absolutely. It sounds very simple and straightforward, right? That, we're all humans and we should be the same. And yeah, indeed, we're humans. In essence, we are born very similar. But I believe that we see each other through different lenses. So based on the experiences that we live, the things that we see in each other, we stop seeing each other as simple humans and we start putting lenses through the circumstances. So throughout everything that we do and live through our lives, that starts influencing our behavior and our thoughts. This is where we become closer to each other when we share our values, or this is where we start separating due to the big differences in the way that we see things.
It all sounds so obvious on the surface, but it turns out that the actual daily practice of companies can make it really much more challenging. Yesterday, we talked about unconscious biases. We spent the full interview on that subject alone. Today, we spend a full interview on microaggressions. So it seems that those differences can play really tricky games with us, don't they? Yeah, perhaps too true to comment on. Małgorzata, can we go to you for a while? How is diversity present in a company like yours? How do you feel about it?
Well, maybe I start much more generally. At workplace, diversity is usually recognized as part of the hiring process. But honestly speaking, today there's much wider, understanding of this process. I think we need to start with some kind of definition of diversity. For me, simply speaking, company is well diverse when they hire the wide range of individuals. And it depends from the country where you operate, from company, what kind of diversity is in your company. Of course, the most typical in Poland, a Polish company, this is gender, this is age, background, sexuality, or also language and the culture, because we do have much more, people from the other countries that we had a decade ago. So that is changing. But be more specific on what we are focusing in GE, in BPH. I will present maybe 2 examples. The first one is the most intuitive, I will say, which was mentioned, this recruitment process. We are focusing to have transparent process and to use appropriate tools. About tools, I mean the simply tools by fact, but we need to ensure that we do have some kind of the helps with tools, like a recruitment policy, or for example, we are using also, short list, which mean that in the last stage of the recruitment on this list, there is at least 1 woman. This is important because this is the way to just hire those wide range of the individuals and talents. That's why this is, from my perspective, important. The next, it's also it's making sure that participants are equal in your company. And we are checking a lot of processes, like, for example, promotion, decision-making process, training, and even participation in projects. Our management information system gives us opportunity to checking regularly our diversity measures. And for example, we are measure share of women and men promoted in last year, or we are checking the share of women who participate in development training. We are
It
checking.
sounds like, Małgorzata, it sounds like you've already developed a very mature metrics system, because you mentioned even when developing new projects, D&I is one of the criteria.
Absolutely, yes. We would like to be sure that participation in the project is wide, that we have a different perspective, people with different backgrounds and different knowledge. This is very important. We would like to have young people and more experience, and in that way they can learn from each other, then can in fact build something better for us. I will say that we are simply believe that what gets measured gets managed. This is our approach, also to diversity.
Yeah. As simple as that. Thank you very much, Małgorzata. Anna, you also have a lot of exposure internationally. How about D&I thinking in your company?
Yeah, thank you. And again, glad to be here. So probably I also will start with some general kind of introduction of the company I'm representing today in this conference. International Paper is a leading global producer of renewable fiber-based packaging, pulp and paper products, with manufacturing all over the world. We have operations in North America, Latin America, Europe, North Africa, India, and Russia. And I think this is a nice introduction of how diversity is present in our company. I think it's pretty much obvious that by definition, we are very diverse. Well, to give you a little bit of numbers, we have more than 50,000 employees all over the world in more than 24 countries, 4 continents, and we produce, as I already mentioned, very variety range of different products. Of course, when you speak about the company of this size and this presence all over the world, we represent different nationalities, languages, religions, minorities, generations, people with different kind of disabilities, and of course,
So basically,
LGBTQ.
Anna, what you're saying, if anyone wants to learn diversity and inclusion, come to International Paper? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. This is the right place to explore and to learn what diversity is. But I think if we talk about different dimensions of diversity, I think it's wider than just than that. It's also different environments that we have in IP, and I'm sure other companies having it as well. At least most of them are speaking about office environment and manufacturing environment, right? We have very different groups of employees. We have white collars, blue collars. We have people, white collars working in the offices which are very closely attached to the manufacturing facilities. And we have people working in
enough
forestry operations.
Enough branding for a while and product placement. I remember, Anna, curiously, on a purely anecdotal level, I remember, well, your particular products and services received extra attention in the early phases of the pandemic, with the news all over the world about the increased demand on some paper products, as we all remember. So it was quite a curious time. But let's stay with that, and allow me now to come back to Jessica for a while, because we seem to be all clear that all of your companies are undertaking quite a lot of effort to explore and develop your D&I policies and daily practices. But can we look at the actual costs of D&I implementation? Are there any costs? Because in a moment, we'll talk about microaggressions and certain cultural clash elements, but what are the costs of having a policy, a sound, mature policy implemented? Jessica.
Well, I would like to probably rephrase that, because for me, it is maybe the wrong question. It is not the cost of doing it, but it is the cost about not doing it. So it is important how we repurpose our resources to make inclusion and diversity a priority, where we want to invest because of the value it represents for the organization, because we know that it will provide better opportunities for innovation. We would have the widest range of skills and perspectives, and this is also brought by having an international environment, right? Of course, I'm not going to say the journey is easy.
Imagine we're dealing with a more skeptical audience, someone that requires more data-driven approach, science-driven approach. How do you persuade someone that it's actually costly not to have a D&I policy in place?
Well, I think probably if we want to talk about numbers, probably the first thing that would come to mind could be attrition. What is the cost of our attrition? Because people are not fitting with each other, because they are not working well together, because they don't feel part of the organization, the sense of belonging. In the long run, so it's obviously we can go more in detail. We can start.
But how is it linked to diversity? Tell
training.
me. Sense of belonging. It's all right. It's very.
Yeah, go ahead.
How is it linked to diversity? How do you establish a strong connection between an employee, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual preferences, feeling a sense of belonging and diversity?
Well, it's about the awareness, right? And how do we fit each other within the society and within an organization? It is not about the hard skills. It's about how we cooperate together and bring the best of each other, being ourselves, and being able to bring the best for the business as well.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Jessica. Małgorzata, can we come back to you with the same slightly skeptical voice? Are there any costs? Because on a purely intuitive level, if there were no costs, I mean, just everyone would go about implementing it, because it would be so clear that that's the thing to do.
I will not deny that there is no cost of implementation diversity, but there is a inherently linked with the implementing anything in the company. If you would like to invest, in the better environment, you need to invest. This is the true, and probably you need to accept that. And looking from the cost perspective, for sure, there are some tangible costs, like was mentioned, the cost of the adaptation, for example, infrastructure to employees with the physical disability, or the training cost to ensure that everybody understands the culture of an organization. But there are also
first part
others.
was really legal compliance. So I suppose that's required, that's standard practice, and we're going beyond standard practice.
But looking from the financial perspective, this is for sure cost. But for sure, there's some other cost, like for example, integration across multicultural teams. This is some effort. You need to understand what it doesn't mean. You need to be able to manage that. The next one is working, for example, with some negative culture stereotypes. Not easy, but if you decide to have a diverse environment at your workplace, you need to be ready for that. You need to prepare yourself as management also. And the last example which I give you is the most tangible in my organization from age perspective, from the age, the different group of employees. This is a just benefit to different group of the employees. We know that the motivation system of the very young people or the mature people in organization is different. We would like to their needs, to their expectations. We would like to find, the point which will be acceptable and still motivation for both employees. And what we are doing, we're very often asking people, what do you expect? What is motivation system? How we can adapt to this? on how we can manage that. And this is our approach. This is our way how we understand, building good workplace for different employees. But what I would like to emphasize that the cost are, the hard work is necessary, but still what was said by Jessica, there's a lot of benefit just linked with this with diversity. And there is a lot of research on market nowadays which can just simply answer, for example, that you have more than one woman in management board, your risk level is going down, your profit is going up. So there's a lot of proof.
You should say that in Małgorzata. It's interesting you should say that in the context of the German government's recent decision about at least one woman in the management board of a public traded company. That's a first of the kind decision, I would say, at the European level. It's interesting because I'm looking at our chat window with our guests from all over the world asking questions. We've got a question from Michael, which very much reflects this sense of skepticism that we should be addressing, I suppose. Michael asks, sometimes I have a feeling we are talking to those who are already convinced. What about others? I mean, how do you develop convincing communication, storytelling around diversity and inclusion, quantify it? Because you all repeat day in, day out that there are lots and lots of studies proving that diversity has a positive impact on productivity and all. And yet, not a single person has mentioned a specific study, data-driven response to all that. I do understand, trust me, because I've researched this topic more than any other topics. And one of the people I would very much like to mention during the last day of D&I Changemakers is the late Professor Catherine Phillips, who studied that subject in detail. And I think she was the first Afro-American PhD graduate from Stanford Business School, if I'm not mistaken. And she spent much of her scientific work studying the science behind the link of productivity and diversity, overall progress in companies' goals. So how do we talk to those who are more skeptical? What kind of language? Because I'm sure you will all agree, if we talk the language of love, of course, that will be just, in today's world, I suppose, will not work as we would like it to work. So what do we do?
Sometimes we need to, continue our language of love, because what is repeated is probably here at one moment. So this is kind of the strategy. But I don't want to show you figures because, just like you mentioned, everybody can just search and find out a lot of studies or researches. But let's
Małgorzata, you work for a bank, for God's sake. You're supposed to show me figures.
Not today. But think about working in the team, for example. You are... I had a different examples, but maybe I will change this English. This is the team of 20 individuals, but only one in this team is man, the rest is women. How do you feel? How do you feel that your individuals' needs are respected? How you can impact on, 20 others' heads which are thinking same way? Probably this is very limited. And that's what I show examples, because that could be from different diversity perspective. That could be from the age of the background, because when we are different in team, we can understand each other much more easily, and that's impact on our relation. We are, the same. We're playing the same model, which was sometimes natural for us, and that one different individuals probably will not stay a long time in this team, probably.
Can I say something as well?
Exactly, Anna, I was going to ask quickly. You, please.
I truly believe that diversity is very much connected with engagement, right? So being diverse company is part of being the company where the employees are engaged. And for those skeptical people who would want to see more numbers, I would recommend to start from probably exploring the Gallup surveys and Gallup researches, which I think very clearly link the engagement of employees with the productivity and with the business results and financial results. So if you make this link, and Gallup is very long time on the market and very well respected company, I think it will help at least for someone to start with these numbers to kind of trying to understand why it is so important. This is what came to my mind answering your question. But of course, there are a lot of other resources to explore and to prove it.
You're absolutely right, Anna. Thank you very much. And I'm glad you actually mentioned engagement, because my next question is all about adaptation. After all, we are asking this question in the title of the discussion. Who should adapt, me or the company? Can you comment on that? Is this a potential clash, that people don't want to adapt too much? After all, their entire work life is about adaptation. But at the same time, when it comes to D&I, it turns out to be a challenge. So what usually prevents people from adapting to others? That's really my question. Jessica, can we come back to you?
Yeah, of course. And I think also linked to the previous answer, to me, is all about awareness. It's about respect, about empathy for each other. And of course, the open mind, and of course, the right exposure to the cultural or behavior differences, right? And otherwise, we fall into stereotypes because we don't really know how it works. But I have to mention here as well that inclusion is not a one-way street. It cannot be that you're expecting that society will include you, that your organization will include you. We as individuals are also responsible to be part of that process, right? And I would like to share a very personal experience with you. As you may have noticed, I'm not Polish. I'm originally from Mexico. And many years ago, when I first moved from Mexico to Amsterdam, I actually got a culture shock. I didn't see it coming. I consider myself a very open-minded person and quite friendly. And the first company that I joined wasn't ready for that integration. They weren't, even though they were built in a very tolerant society, and I didn't feel that there was any issue with me making friends or fitting into other cultures. I found that I tried to change to fit their culture, but I didn't feel that sense of belonging. I was still an outsider. In contrast,
What was it?
15 years
thank
later,
you for sharing Thank you for sharing a more personal angle, but allow me just to touch on that a little further. What were those specific areas that made it so difficult for you? Because as you yourself said, you didn't see it coming. So what was it more specifically? Because I'm sure it escalated in you, so to say.
Well, of course it escalated because I actually was feeling that maybe there was something wrong with me, right? I was starting to feel, well, why can't I just fit in? And actually,
We'll
that's also
talk
what I
about
wanted to
imposter
mention.
syndrome today.
Yes, that's actually a very, very important one, right? And of course, you don't know any better. And I have to say, in Mexico, I wasn't exposed to the different cultures either. So I didn't expect to see anything different, right? And of course, the awareness wasn't as out there as it is right now. But I have to say that many years later, so to be precise, 15 years later, when I moved to Poland, I still had people telling me, well, why are you moving to Poland? Society is very close. It's difficult. You're going to find it very difficult to fit in. But then I joined Accenture, and Accenture was already ready for that integration. They had not only the open mind, but they had the empathy and the support that I needed. So right away, when I first started, I already felt at home. I felt that I was in a safe environment. People were aware of my needs as a foreigner. They knew I didn't speak the language. They knew that I would need support to adapt to the country. And I got that support and I felt part of it. And I have to say, Poland has been one of my best experiences in a very long time.
Wonderful to hear it, Jessica. But please do tell me, let's go back to the Netherlands for a while, because I think a lot of us would like to understand, and we've also heard some case studies. What can go wrong when an employee coming from a different culture, from a different continent, feels that there are those tiny little things that would make a huge difference, but they are not there? So what was not there?
I believe it was the awareness and the empathy. Because as I was saying before, the the Dutch are known for being very tolerant society. They're very open to welcoming other cultures into their country. They even speak English for you. You don't even need to learn the language. So they are known for being welcoming. The differences that I found is that I was expecting to be like at home, something as simple as in Mexico, we just talk to anyone in the street. You go to the supermarket, you talk to people. In the Netherlands, the culture is different. You need to be closer. You need to find your own way to actually fit into their beliefs, to be part of, not just to be part of the environment, but to be actually closer to the culture, right? And that wasn't there.
It's Jessica, thank you very much for this perspective, because I suppose it's not very often that we hear that a professional coming from another continent, a country like Mexico, coming to a country like the Netherlands, feels much more welcomed by the professional environment in Poland compared to the Netherlands. That was interesting to hear. Now, we've got only 2 minutes left, so can I go back to Anna, perhaps, and ask you, what does your company do to support the adaptation process? 1 minute, go.
So in 1 minute will be difficult, but I try to. So of course, this is on onboarding process that we have in place, which have the D&I as a part of the process. Also, we are working through different mentoring boards, which helps people to create the culture, to understand the needs of special groups. Also, we have in-play networking circles, which also helps to kind of unite the people of the certain needs of the certain groups. And so actually it's an open dialogue that we constantly have with employees, because we consider, to answer the previous question, it's not about adaptation. It's really about building the culture and living the diversity. So diversity, it's what comes to your company, and then inclusion, it's what you do with that and how people value and how do they understand and accept. So if in 1 minute, that would be my very quick answer, but I will be more than happy to share more in the further discussions.
So I should address our audience and ask them to ask you questions in the chat window. Possibly they will get the answer directly from you. Thank you very much, Anna. Małgorzata?
So I have probably only a few seconds, so I'm building on.
No, you have 1 minute.
I believe that the recipe is really simply. You need to build exactly the open, safe, and inclusive organization culture. And I know that is simply said, but done is much more difficult. But I will focus on 3 aspects. First of all, your values as company's values. Just check and ensure that those values correspond well with diversity idea. Sometimes correspond, sometimes not. The second is communication. You need to communicate broadly to internally, externally, that diversity is important for you. This is the same story like if a strategy. Strategy cannot be hidden, cannot be secret, and you have to have the same approach to the diversity strategy. You need to tell people that this is important for you, and after that, showing that this is really important for you. So give the proof, be with your employees and, support them. And the last thing, which seems to be obvious, but make sure that leaders foster this culture. This is very important in big organization where you have a few layers of management in organization. You will never know what message is delivered, and we would like to be consistent. So what is set in strategy, mission, and values have to be delivered to employees. And this is maybe a little bit theory, but if you are check this in your organization, probably you will find easily some solution how to do it. I would like to only share with one things which we are doing very often. We would like to create really friendly workplace for our employees. And we started a few years ago some initiative which is called I like working here, maybe too simply, but works. And we have bottom-up group of different group of employees who are telling us what does it mean for them friendly workplace. And we try to adopt if we are able to do that.
Małgorzata, Anna, Thank you very much. I think Jessica put it best by doing this. All the best, and thank you for finding the time to talk to us this morning during the last day and the first and last debate of D&I Changemakers 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.